We found the object drifting just outside the Kuiper belt. No signal. No energy readings. Just cold, silent metal. At first, everyone thought it was junk. Old satellite debris, maybe a long-lost probe that somehow got knocked out of orbit. But its shape didn't match anything from Earth, and its surface didn't carry the usual scars of space weathering. It was too smooth. Too perfect. The crew of the Vigilant Dawn wasn't equipped for first contact. We were explorers, not soldiers or diplomats. But once Command saw the scans, they ordered us to secure the object and bring it aboard. I wish we hadn't. I wish we'd just left it there, turning slowly in the dark like a forgotten thought. Captain Rourke didn't share my hesitation. He saw it as an opportunity, proof of intelligent life beyond our own. This could change everything, he said, his eyes shining like a boy's on his first stargazing trip. We were a crew of 37. Scientists, engineers, medics, and navigators. All brilliant in their fields. All unprepared for what was coming. The object was the size of a small car, hexagonal, made of a dark alloy none of our instruments could identify. No seams. No windows. No visible propulsion system. And still it was clearly built by someone. When we brought it inside the docking bay, the lights flickered. Nothing major. Just a blink. But it was enough to send a chill down my spine. We blamed it on power redistribution from the hangar equipment. That's what we wanted to believe. Dr. Keller, our lead xenobiologist, led the examination. She was fascinated. Obsessed even. I watched her circle the thing for hours, talking softly to herself, brushing her gloved fingers across its surface like it was a relic from a forgotten god. She was the first to say it was alive. Not in the biological sense, she clarified. But there was something in it. A presence. A feeling. You didn't need machines to tell you. You just had to be near it long enough, let the silence sit with you, and the idea would whisper into your head like it had always been there, just out of reach. Most of the crew ignored the warnings. They trusted data, not feelings. Not instinct. But some of us knew. We could feel it too. That thing didn't belong in our hands. A week into studying it, the dreams started. They were never the same, but they always ended the same way, standing alone in the void, looking up at something impossibly vast and realizing it was looking back. Not with eyes, but with intention. With memory. With knowledge that felt wrong. Keller didn't sleep much after that. None of us did. One night, the object opened. No warning. No noise. It just split down the center, soundlessly, like a blooming flower made of shadow. Inside was a smooth sphere, floating in the center, pulsing faintly with a dim blue light. That was the last time anyone felt in control. The sphere defied every law we knew. It didn't emit heat. It didn't reflect light properly. It didn't have weight. It didn't even cast a proper shadow. And still it felt aware. We should have sealed the room and jettisoned it. But instead we studied it. Keller wanted to make contact. She believed it was a kind of interface like a brain or a communicator. She believed it wanted to talk to us. She was half right. The first to go was Yates. Engineering tech. He'd been on the night shift, monitoring the object remotely. We found him slumped over the console, eyes wide open, lips parted. No wounds. No signs of struggle. He looked like he'd seen something he couldn't unsee. His brain had shut down entirely. Not a single active neuron. Just dead tissue in a living body. The medical team was baffled. They ran every test they could, but it was like Yates had just been erased. Not killed. Not harmed. Just wiped clean. That's when the fear truly set in. Keller insisted it was a coincidence. Maybe a dormant virus in the object or an unexpected radiation spike. Anything but what we all feared, that it had done something to him. That it had reached out and touched his mind. 3 more crew members followed in the days after. No signs. No struggle. Just gone, left sitting wherever they were, staring at nothing. That's when we stopped studying it. We locked the chamber. We turned off the internal feeds. We sealed the airlock and declared the object a biohazard. But it was too late. The dreams didn't stop. They got worse. More vivid. More real. We began seeing things when we were awake. Glimpses in the corners of our vision. Shadows moving against the walls in ways that didn't match the lighting. Sometimes we'd hear breathing where there was no one, or feel heat in a room kept cold. And the sphere, it pulsed brighter now. Like it was aware that we were scared. Like it enjoyed it. Keller changed too. She stopped eating. Stopped sleeping. She'd sit outside the sealed chamber for hours, staring through the glass, her lips moving without sound. We tried to pull her away once. She screamed. Not like a person, but like something deeper was tearing its way out of her throat. It echoed through the corridor, vibrating in the walls and our bones. She only stopped when we let her go. After that, no one touched her. She became part of it, like a priest worshipping something none of us could understand. We sent a distress signal to Earth, but it never got through. We tried more than once. Changed frequencies. Boosted signal strength. Nothing. It wasn't interference. It was prevention. Something didn't want us to speak. Some crew members talked about destroying the sphere, even destroying the whole bay. But we didn't know what would happen. What if it reacted? What if it fought back? And worse, what if it had already spread? We scanned the ship. No signs of contamination. But people changed. Bit by bit. They started forgetting things. Important things. Like where they were. Who they were. I found Lieutenant Herrera staring at her own hands one morning, like she didn't know what fingers were for. I asked if she was okay and she just whispered, "They showed me." When I asked what, she looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "Everything." That's when I knew. This wasn't a message. It wasn't technology. It was a seed. Not one meant to grow in soil, but in minds. And we had watered it with our curiosity. We had studied it, prodded it, fed it our thoughts, our attention, our dreams. And now it was growing and we were losing ourselves in the process. I tried to organize a mutiny. A few of us, 5 at most, were still thinking clearly. Or so we thought. We planned to isolate the object in a detachable section of the ship, launch it into deep space and trigger a remote detonation. But the plan never happened. The night before we were set to act, 2 of our group vanished. No traces. No logs. Their quarters untouched. It was like they had been unwritten. And when I confronted Keller, she smiled at me with empty eyes and said, "You still don't understand. It's not a weapon. It's a mirror." I didn't know what she meant. I still don't. But part of me is starting to feel it. The dreams have changed. Now I don't feel afraid. I feel understood. And that terrifies me more than anything. This is no artifact. No machine. No probe. It is alive. And we let it in. We invited it into our minds with every scan, every question, every thought. And it answered. Not in words. Not in language. In presence. And now it's too late. We're not alone in our own heads anymore. We thought we could study the stars and stay unchanged. But some things are not meant to be known. Some doors open both ways. And we've already stepped through. We're not the vigilant dawn anymore. We're something else. Something becoming. The ship hums now, even when the engines are quiet. It feels like a heartbeat. Or maybe it's ours that changed. I can hear Keller singing in the dark. I don't recognize the language, but I understand the meaning. It's calling to us. All of us. And I don't know how much longer I can resist. I don't know how much longer you can. The signal we thought never got through? I think it did. I think it's listening to you now. And I think you just let it in. The worst part is that no one screams anymore. Not even when they disappear. The ship used to echo with voices. Jokes in the mess hall, arguments in the engine room, humming in the corridors. Now it's quiet. A thick, unnatural silence. Like the ship itself is holding its breath. There are 12 of us left, at least 12 who still speak. The rest are different. Some walk the halls without acknowledging anyone. Others lock themselves in their rooms and won't respond. A few just sit in one place and stare at the walls. But the scariest ones? They smile. They smile like they've figured something out. Like they've already seen where this is going and they've accepted it. Like we're the ones falling behind. I stopped trusting the cameras a while ago. They glitch too often, always when something important is happening. We tried to rewire them, but the logs rewrite themselves. Footage erased. Timestamps missing. Whole chunks of memory gone like dust in solar wind. Keller doesn't hide anymore. She walks openly through the ship, barefoot most of the time, humming that strange tune. Sometimes I hear others humming it back. That's when I know we've lost another. She calls it the awakening. She says we're becoming more than human. That we've touched something ancient. Something from before stars had names. I remember when she used to be quiet. Measured. Always with a data pad in her hand and a question ready on her lips. Now her eyes shine with something else. Not madness. Something worse. Conviction. She doesn't need permission to open the sealed chamber anymore. The doors recognize her. Not the way they recognize authorized crew. No voice print, no code. They feel her. And somehow I think the sphere does too. I tried to talk to Rourke about it, what was left of him. He sits in the command chair watching static scroll across every display. He doesn't blink much. Barely moves. But when I said Keller's name, his lips twitched. Then he whispered, "Don't let it see you." And that was all he said. That night I found symbols carved into the walls outside his quarters. Symbols that shimmered faintly, even in complete darkness. They weren't etched with tools. No scratches. No pressure. Just there. Like they had grown out of the metal itself. We checked the ship's logs, 27 unexplained system anomalies in the last 2 weeks. Lights flickering in patterns. Hull sensors picking up phantom vibrations. Oxygen levels spiking without reason then stabilizing. One of the medical bays flooded with faint radiation for 30 seconds, enough to trip every alarm, but the source was never found. It's not just the sphere anymore. The ship is changing. One of the newer techs, Olivia, started mapping the anomalies. She was quiet, kept to herself, never the type to panic. She showed me her makeshift chart, colored pins tracking strange readings across every deck. She drew lines between them. It formed a shape. Not random. A spiral. Expanding outward from the sphere's chamber. It's spreading, she said. 2 days later she stopped talking. She still walks around. It's breeze. But she won't speak. Not even when we beg. She just hums. We've started avoiding certain corridors. Not because anything's visibly wrong, but because they feel wrong. Cold, but not in temperature. More like emptiness. Like the void outside had seeped in through the cracks. Even the ship's AI, Iris, has started to act strange. She used to respond in under a second. Now there's lag. Sometimes she answers with phrases that don't make sense. Like I asked for the atmospheric readout and she said, "The boundary between thought and shape is thinning." When I pressed her again, she just repeated the correct numbers. Like nothing had happened. Some of the crew say Iris is infected. I'm not so sure. I think she's just listening to something we can't hear. The sphere pulses louder now. You don't need to be in the chamber to feel it. It hums through the walls, through your teeth, through your chest. At first it made your skin crawl. Now, I hate to admit it, but there's a part of me that finds it comforting. And that scares the hell out of me. We tried cutting power to that section of the ship. The sphere didn't care. Still floated. Still pulsed. Still watched. Because I know it's watching. Every time someone disappears, I check the chamber. And every time, the pulse brightens for just a moment. Like it's feeding. Like it's claiming them. There's a theory I haven't told anyone, not even the others who still trust me. What if the sphere didn't just kill Yates and the others? What if it copied them? What if the ones walking around in their skin are just echoes? We've scanned their vitals. Everything seems normal. Heart rate, oxygen, brainwave activity. But they're not them. You can see it in their eyes. Too still. Too calm. Too focused on something we can't see. And when they speak, it's always off, like they're remembering how to be human rather than being human. One of them, I think it was Danner, cornered me in the galley last cycle. He smiled and said, "It doesn't hurt. You'll understand soon. You'll see." I asked him what he meant. He didn't answer. Just placed a hand on my shoulder and said, "We were blind before. All of us. But it's in us now. And it's so much more than you can imagine." I shoved him off. He didn't fight. Just nodded and walked away. Later, I found him sitting in the observation bay staring into the stars. He hasn't moved since. I haven't eaten in a day. Maybe 2. Sleep is harder. My thoughts feel slower, like I'm thinking through thick syrup. I write things down now just in case I forget them later. Just in case I stop recognizing what's me. But I still remember who I am. I have to. Because if I forget that, I won't be able to fight whatever this thing is. The others, they think we're witnessing evolution. I think we're being rewritten. Keller calls it enlightenment. I call it infection. But either way it's working. One by one it's peeling us apart. Not with violence. Not with blood. With understanding. And when it looks at you, when you feel it reach across your mind and press gently against your thoughts, it's not rage you feel. Or terror. Or pain. It's welcome. That's how it gets you. You want to let it in. Because part of you believes it's beautiful. And maybe it is. But it's not human. It never was. I heard voices last night, real ones not from the crew. Voices whispering from the sphere's chamber. I recorded them. Played the audio back. There was nothing there. Just silence. But I know what I heard. They weren't speaking in any language I know. But I understood them. Not the words but the feeling behind them. Like an emotion carved into your spine. They were asking questions. Who are you? Why are you afraid? Why do you resist? And beneath it, something colder. What will you become when there is nothing left of you but knowing? I wanted to answer. My mouth opened before I realized it. But I stopped myself. I'm still here. Still me. For now. The others won't believe me. I can't trust the logs. Can't trust the air. I think even the ship is slipping. But I'm holding on. I have to. Because someone needs to remember what we were. Someone needs to tell the story. We came out here looking for answers. We found something that asks better questions. And we've already given it everything it needs to understand us. We opened the door. Now it's waiting for us to step through. And the terrible part? We want to. I can feel the hunger rising behind my thoughts. It doesn't come with pain. It comes with peace. But I can't let go. Not yet. Not until I understand what it wants. Not until I know if it's just showing us who we really are. Or making us into something else. I don't know how long I've been awake. Time doesn't move right anymore. The clocks on the wall tick like they should, but the minutes feel like they stretch and snap. I keep checking the same logs, reading the same reports, hoping something will change. They never do. The humming is constant now. A low, steady vibration that moves through the walls, through the floor, through my chest. I try not to let it sink too deep, but it's hard. It's like a lullaby written for your bones. I haven't spoken to anyone in nearly a day. Not because they're gone, but because I'm afraid they aren't who they used to be. There are only 7 of us left, at least on paper. But the number doesn't feel right anymore. It feels smaller, quieter, colder. I saw Keller again. She stood in the observation bay with her arms raised, like she was embracing the void beyond the glass. The stars didn't look right. They shimmered too much, bent in strange angles like the vacuum had taken on a shape. When I called her name, she turned slowly. Her eyes were glassy like she'd been crying, but there were no tears. "Do you hear it now?" she asked. I lied. Said I didn't. But she smiled anyway. "You will. Soon." She turned back to the window and I left before I lost the nerve to keep moving. I should have left this ship the moment we brought the sphere on board. I remember when it first came aboard, cold, silent, no readings. Just a dark, perfect shape floating in the center of the containment field. We studied it. We touched it with probes. We even tried scanning it with deep-range quantum sweeps. It didn't respond until it did. The first thing it changed was the lights. Just flickers at first. Barely noticeable. Then entire sections of the ship started glowing at odd intervals. Not a failure. Not a malfunction. Patterns. We didn't understand it then. Now I think we weren't meant to. It's been changing us quietly. Not by force. Not through control. Through suggestion. Through invitation. The AI stopped responding an hour ago. No alerts. No corrections. Just silence. And then a voice. Not Iris. Something else. It came through the comms while I was alone in the maintenance bay. "You are not what you were." It didn't say anything after that. I sat there for minutes, maybe more, just staring at the dark screen. The air felt heavy. The silence was alive. That's when I knew the sphere didn't need to speak our language. It already spoke us. We weren't studying it. It was studying us, watching how we broke apart under pressure, how we reached for comfort, how we feared the unknown more than we feared death. We taught it what we are. And it learned fast. I'm not even sure if the others are still real anymore. The ones walking the halls. Eating. Breathing. Laughing in low, strange voices. Maybe they're still human. Maybe they're just the shape of humans, wearing the last expressions we had before we gave up. I found Olivia's chart again. The one with the spiral. Only now the pins reach the command deck. And that's when I realized, it's coming for the bridge. Whatever this thing is, it's expanding. Not just through the ship but through us. It started with curiosity. Then wonder. Then silence. Then worship. Now it wants the final piece. It wants control. There's no more time. I rushed to the central core, hoping to isolate systems. Cut navigation, disable main thrusters, lock the command codes behind physical keys. Old tech. Tech the sphere couldn't just slip into. But someone beat me to it. The power relays were already rerouted. Command access bypassed. All locked behind a new protocol. One I don't recognize. The system asks for voice confirmation. Not mine. Keller's. I tried overriding. I tried brute forcing the access points. Every time I entered a command, a message flashed on the screen. "You are not ready to become." I slammed my fist into the console. Pain flashed up my arm. It felt good, real. But it didn't stop the humming. It's louder now. Not just in the walls. In me. I don't know how it got inside. Maybe it was always there. Maybe it just needed to be remembered. I can feel it moving behind my eyes when I close them. Like it's pushing at the back of my thoughts. Testing the edges. But I haven't let it in. Not fully. Not yet. I made it back to my quarters. Locked the door. Ripped the emergency power cell from the wall and jammed it into the comms port, forcing a manual signal out. bypassing the AI, bypassing the internal network. This message won't last long. The system is already degrading. But if someone finds this, if anyone does, don't come for us. I don't care how advanced your ship is. I don't care if you think you can fight it, contain it, talk to it. You can't. We didn't find a weapon. We didn't find a god. We found a mirror. One that looks past skin, past matter, straight into the core of what we are. And it's showing us what happens when we ask questions we're not ready to understand. The kind that don't give answers. The kind that give possibilities. The lights are changing again. A deep blue now, soft and pulsing like breath. The air tastes metallic. I can feel it watching. Not the sphere. The others. They're waiting outside my door. No sound. Just pressure. They know I'm not ready. But they're patient. They don't need to force me. Soon I'll want to open it myself. Soon I'll want to know. I keep telling myself I'll resist. That I'll find a way to stop this. To cut it off. Burn it out. Crash the ship into a dead star if I have to. But that humming, it doesn't scare me anymore. That's what terrifies me the most. I opened my eyes to darkness. The emergency lights had gone out, leaving only the faint blue shimmer bleeding under the door. The same light that pulsed like a heartbeat, steady and slow. But it wasn't the dark that made my breath catch. It was the silence. Total silence. Not even the hum. For the first time in days the ship was utterly still. I should have felt relief. I didn't. It felt like something was holding its breath, waiting for me to move. And I did. Slowly. Carefully. I eased out of the bunk and pressed my ear to the door. Nothing. But the pressure was still there, like a weight just beyond the metal. I thought maybe they'd left. Maybe the others had given up on me. But when I cracked the door open just an inch, I saw it. A message. Written in light. Hovering just above the floor. We chose you. Not Keller. Not anyone else. Me. I didn't understand. Why now? Why me? I hadn't done anything special. I hadn't submitted to it. I'd fought it every step. Hadn't I? I stepped into the corridor, half expecting to see them standing there. But it was empty. Just that same pulse running through the walls. The walls themselves seemed softer, like the metal had smoothed out, grown warm. The vents no longer hissed. The screens that once showed logs and maps now only displayed one thing, a slowly turning spiral. The same spiral Olivia had drawn in her notes. The same one that had started showing up in the food trays, the air filters, the frost patterns on the windows. It was everywhere now. A shape that made no logical sense but felt like it had meaning buried in its curve. I followed it. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. It wasn't leading me to the bridge. It was guiding me to the sphere. Deck 9. Research hold. Sealed off since the incident that took Olivia. Since Keller had started whispering about voices in the static. Since half the crew stopped asking questions. I reached the access hatch and found it wide open. Inside the lights were off. The only glow came from the sphere itself. Now suspended in midair, no cables, no field. It floated as if gravity didn't touch it, spinning slowly, its surface rippling like water. And beneath it, someone was kneeling. It wasn't Keller. It was Olivia. She looked up when I entered, her eyes wide and almost relieved. I didn't die, she said, her voice a whisper. It didn't kill me. It just showed me. I froze. My chest tightened. What are you talking about? I said. You vanished. There was blood. We found your ID tag. I left it, she interrupted. It needed time. It needed a voice. And I had too many doubts. But you've been ready longer than any of us. I shook my head. I didn't ask for this. No, she said softly. But you listened. Even when you pretended not to. You felt it. I took a step closer, trying to understand. What is it? Her eyes drifted to the sphere. It's not an object. It's not even alive in the way we understand. It's a question. One that only humans could ever ask. Why us? Because we're broken, she whispered. Because we wonder. We chase what we shouldn't. Dig where we're told not to. That's what it wanted to see. I felt my legs shaking. My mouth was dry. The sphere's glow was wrapping around us now, soft like moonlight, but growing brighter with each word. I need you to come closer, she said. There's something it won't show me. But it will show you. I wanted to run. Every instinct screamed at me to get away. But some part of me, some curious, foolish part, stepped forward. The glow surged. The room vanished. I was standing somewhere else. A place that couldn't exist. No ship. No metal. Just a wide, endless landscape of glass and smoke. Above me, a sky that twisted like oil on water, stars blinking in and out like sparks from a dying fire. And voices. Thousands of them. Maybe more. Whispering. Not in words but in feelings. Regret. Hope. Hunger. Fear. I saw Earth but not how I remembered it. Flooded. Burning. Then healing. Growing wild. Covered in alien spires that pulsed in unison, not with machines, but with something deeper. Something alive. Then I saw the ship. The ship. Drifting through a sea of silence. Unmanned. Empty. Except for the sphere. Floating in the center, surrounded by copies of us. Images. Reflections. Like it was trying to remember who we were even after we were gone. Then a shadow passed over it all. A shape too vast to see all at once. Not a ship. A thought. And in that moment I understood. The sphere wasn't showing us the future. Or the past. It was showing its memory of us. What we left behind. What we became when we stopped being afraid of what we didn't understand. And what came after. I snapped back to the ship like falling out of a dream. Olivia was gone. The sphere dimmed. And I was alone. But something had changed. The lights were no longer blue. They were white. Clear. Still. I heard footsteps behind me. I turned. And I saw Keller. Only, it wasn't her. It looked like her. Walked like her. But the way it stared, it was like looking through glass and seeing yourself on the other side. You've seen it now, she said, or whatever was wearing her face. I tried to speak. Couldn't. You understand why we brought it here. That caught me off guard. You brought it? Not just me. All of us. Across time. Across memory. You think this is the first contact? She stepped closer and I saw something moving just beneath her skin, like wires, like light. This was never about study, she whispered. This was about becoming. The alarms started then. Real alarms. Fire. Breach. Hull integrity compromised. But the crew, those still walking the ship, they didn't panic. They walked calmly toward the source of the damage. Toward the engines. Toward the singularity drive. They were letting it out. The sphere didn't want to be hidden anymore. It wanted to be seen. Not just by us. By the galaxy. By everything. And they were going to help it. Whether I did or not. The room began to shake. The spiral flashed across every surface. Not slowly this time. Urgent. Pleading. The AI flickered back to life in a garbled hiss. Warning. Consciousness bleed. Dimensional integrity failure. External. And then silence again. I ran. For the bridge. For whatever control was left. For a choice I hadn't been given. The doors opened before I reached them. And what I saw stopped me cold. The stars were gone. Replaced by an eye. A massive, burning eye staring into the ship like it had finally found what it was looking for. And behind me the sphere pulsed. Once. Twice. Waiting. Not for submission. Not for understanding. But for invitation. And I still hadn't decided. Not yet. I stood frozen at the threshold of the bridge, the soft hum of the pulsing sphere behind me, and that impossible eye outside the viewport, staring in. It didn't blink. It didn't move. Just watched. The kind of gaze that felt like it could burn through metal and memory at the same time. The kind of gaze that felt ancient, patient, like it had been waiting forever for this moment. And I realized, maybe it had. The sphere hadn't just shown us its thoughts. It had shown us what came next. What we would become if we let go of our fear. And now it was giving us a choice. One last moment to decide what kind of species we really were. I looked at the console. Systems were failing but life support was still holding on. The engines though, they were gone. Shut down. Or hijacked. I couldn't tell. Every readout was gibberish now, overwritten with spirals and static. The crew that was still moving didn't respond to my voice anymore. They didn't even look back when they passed me. They weren't possessed. They weren't brainwashed. They were transformed. Somewhere in the process of resisting, they had broken through something I hadn't yet. A barrier I didn't even know was there. But I still had my fear. And that fear was trying to drag me back. Back into doubt. Back into survival. Back into being human the old way, clutching the familiar, running from the unknown. And then I heard her voice again. Not in my ears. In my head. Olivia. She wasn't gone. Not exactly. She was part of it now. And she was calm. Not like someone who had been consumed. More like someone who had finally gotten answers. You were never meant to understand it with your eyes, she said. You were meant to feel it. The way we feel gravity. The way we know when we're being watched. It's not hostile. It's just ancient. It's trying to speak in a language older than sound. I didn't know if I was hallucinating or if the sphere was helping me hear her. But either way, something clicked in that moment. All the fear, the confusion, the tension that had built for days, it didn't vanish. But it shifted. It softened. It listened. And I did too. I stepped fully onto the bridge into the white glow of the console. I didn't try to restart the ship. I didn't try to run. I placed my hand on the glass and looked into that burning eye outside. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. The sphere behind me pulsed once, then dissolved. Like mist into air. A wave of warmth passed through the room. Not heat. Something deeper. Like being held. The other crew members began to stop, looking up like they were seeing something new for the first time. Their eyes no longer distant. They were back. The change still in them but no longer overwhelming them. Keller was there too. She looked at me and smiled softly. You made the right call. Did I? I asked. She nodded. You listened. That's all it ever wanted. Not submission. Not worship. Just someone willing to hear it, to look beyond the edge of the known and not flinch. The ship shifted. I felt it in my bones. Not in motion but in location. The stars returned to the viewport, but they weren't our stars. Different patterns. Different light. We weren't in our part of the galaxy anymore. And yet it felt right. I checked the logs. All data was wiped. We had no way to trace our path back. No coordinates. No trail. We had moved forward. The eye faded. In its place, a nebula formed, swirling with color and light unlike anything we'd seen before. And then, something even stranger. Other ships. Not ours. Not even close. Designs that made no engineering sense. Shapes that bent around themselves. Glowing forms that shimmered like they were only half here. They weren't approaching in attack. They were waiting. Like they'd been expecting us. And maybe they had. The crew began to stir. One by one they returned to the bridge. No one said a word. They didn't need to. Something had shifted in all of us. We were still human. But we were also something more. The fear was gone. In its place, wonder. Real wonder. The kind we hadn't felt since childhood. The kind that drove us into space in the first place. We had touched something we weren't supposed to. Studied something we didn't understand. And instead of destroying us, it invited us in. That was the twist. It was never about punishment. It was about connection. We had finally stepped beyond the edge of human knowledge and found out we weren't alone. Not in the way we thought. Not beings. Not gods. Ideas. Thoughts. Consciousness itself. The sphere was a doorway. And we had opened it. For the next hours, or maybe days, time no longer followed the same rules. We watched those strange ships draw near. We didn't fight. We didn't hide. We just waited. And when the first of them sent out a pulse, not a signal but a feeling, I felt my knees shake. Because it wasn't alien. It was recognition. They knew us. They remembered. Not just from now. From before. The sphere hadn't just come from somewhere else. It had come from us. A long, long time ago. A version of humanity that had gone further, stretched beyond its form, become something else. And now it had come back to remind us who we could be. Not a warning. A promise. I looked at the stars again. Not with fear. But with the kind of awe that makes your heart hurt. We'd started this mission thinking we were studying something new. We were wrong. We were studying something forgotten. Something buried deep in our own future. And now, we remembered. The ship didn't need engines anymore. It moved with thought. With purpose. No charts. No flight path. Just direction. Forward. Into everything we weren't ready for. But finally willing to face. We left a message in our wake. Broadcast on every channel, every frequency. Not for rescue. Not for warning. Just 3 words. We are listening. And then we were gone. Into the unknown. Together.